All right, busy news day. Let's take a look at these images. Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing on Friday that the U.S. military conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a narco-trafficking vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organizations traveling off the coast of Venezuela. It killed 4 men aboard the vessel. No U.S. forces were harmed in the U.S. Southern Command operation, which was ordered by President Trump, according to Hegseth. We do still have standing by here, retired Marine Intelligence Officer, National Security Analyst, and host of the Strap podcast, Hal Kempfer. He's here with us. And Hal, I got to ask you, this is the 4th time that we've seen images like this. I've heard the Caribbean international waters, previous strikes, but as I read in the intro here, they said this was off the Venezuelan coast. What do we make of that? Is that significant?
I don't know if that was just happened to be the way they used the terminology on this. It looked like it was, still technically Caribbean waters, international waters in the Caribbean, but off the Venezuelan coast. And from what I can tell, the other strikes were also Caribbean, international waters in the Caribbean off the Venezuela coast. So they all seem to be consistent. If there's a trend line you can take from it, it's that we do these strikes in international waters off the coast of Venezuela, and this seemed to be very consistent with that. I thought the way if you look at the detonation, if you look at the impact with the water, I do have some questions as far as what exactly did they use. I could speculate, but I don't know. But it did seem to have a broad impact very quickly, a tremendous explosive force. And I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
Is that because you see all those pits in the water surrounding the boat immediately?
Yeah, that was just a little bit different from what I've seen with the targeting of the other 3 craft. And maybe I should go back and look at the video again. But I'm kind of wondering what it was hit with. And then the question I would have on this is what platform was used to hit this? Was this a drone? Was it one of the F-35s? Was it something from one of the other? We have a variety of platforms out there. We got helicopters and other things as well. So I'm just kind of wondering what exactly was used to take out this particular drug boat, this fast boat, or go fast boat, as they sometimes refer to them. And this is a very common conveyance that we see moving drugs throughout the Caribbean and other places as well. But one of the reasons they use these go fast boats is because they go fast. They go faster than, say, a Coast Guard cutter, which makes interdiction very difficult. And that's why they use them. And they're usually faster than pretty much all the craft that we have on the water, anywhere out there. I mean, they'll put a number of outboard engines on these things, and they move very fast. 50, 60 knots is not uncommon. I've heard 70 knots at times, but makes stopping them very, very difficult. Not difficult to hit them with a weapon fired from an aircraft, though, which is what they've done here. And I should mention one other thing, is we're framing this in very much terms that sound like the war on terror. It's a narco-terrorist organization. We don't even slow down calling these guys. The 4 people aboard the boat we call them terrorists. And so what you're seeing is a maritime equivalent of what we kind of grew used to watching happening in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and some other places where we would target, say, ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Now we're seeing this on the water in the Caribbean and the Western Hemisphere. And certainly, as you noted, a number of lawyers, the legal review on this is there are differing opinions as to the methodology and to the designation and to this, strike first sort of thing, if you will, where we identify it. And then the other question, of course, is what is the evidence that this was a actual drug boat that they were using to justify this? There's just a lot of questions that do pop up on it.
So for those unaware, Hal previously worked on the war on drugs under U.S. Southern Command. Mm-hmm. Every boat that we've seen struck so far, correct me if I'm wrong, Stateless vessel, yes, but presumed to have come from Venezuela. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. And we're using the same sort of things that we would use for, say, if we struck a vehicle in Iraq or Afghanistan that was carrying terrorists. Same sort of criteria. We have intelligence that's clearly indicative that there are terrorists aboard or that it's moving, some sort of contraband or whatever it is. And in this case, we're saying we have intelligence, which they say we have evidence. And of course, I'm sure lawyers would probably spend some time going between what is intelligence and what's evidence. And then the other question would be, is it evidence that could be presented in a court of law? Because some of it could come from sources and methods of intelligence that we would never want to talk about in a court of law. But we feel convinced that they are carrying dangerous narcotics, drugs, contraband to the United States. And there's something else that we did, which I thought was interesting. You may recall in Iraq, there was a little issue over weapons of mass destruction. All right, that was used as our justification for going into Iraq in 2003. And in that case, and weapons of mass destruction could be chemical, biological, radiological. Obviously, a nuclear weapon would be a weapon of mass destruction. In this case, we framed it by saying it was carrying dangerous drugs that could kill 25 to 50,000 Americans. And I found that to be a very interesting way of phrasing what that dangerous contraband is. And that goes to ascribing or describing the shipment as posing some sort of serious, imminent threat, deadly threat to American lives, which goes to justifying why this use of force or why this particular method of engagement was relied upon.
Let's read Secretary Hegseth's statement about this. It's lengthy. I'm going to read it, though. Earlier this morning, on President Trump's orders, I directed a lethal kinetic strike on a narco-trafficking vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organizations in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility. 4 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed in the strike, and no U.S. forces were harmed in the operation. The strike was conducted in international waters just off the coast of Venezuela while the vessel was transporting substantial amounts of narcotics, headed to America to poison our people. Our intelligence, without a doubt, confirmed that this vessel was trafficking narcotics. The people on board were narco-terrorists, and they were operating on a known narco-trafficking transit route. These strikes will continue until the attacks on the American people are over. He mentions Southcom in the Post. As I said, Hal has worked on the war on drugs under U.S. Southern Command. Hal, Hegseth says that the strikes will continue until the attacks on the American people are over. If this is a known drug route, using your knowledge and your context and what you know about the region, are these guys thinking about, okay, well, 4 boats have been struck now. Are they going to start to use alternate routes? Or are they going to stop doing this altogether? What's the train of thought here?
Interesting that you bring that up. I would say, yeah, there's a lot of different drug routes. The Caribbean is a drug route, period, that you see drugs moving up. But then they also move on the other side. They move up the Atlantic as well. And it's not just fast boats. They will sometimes use aircraft. They use those famous semi-submersibles that look like submarines, but they don't actually completely submerge. The conning tower always stays above water, and they're kind of basically like disposable submarines, if you will, but they don't fully submerge, and they use those. And it's why they believe that the drug cartels have fully submersible vessels as well, actual submarines that they use to carry narcotics. But what this says is that we're looking at obviously known drug routes, and this is a known drug route. But then again, there's a lot of known drug routes out there, and sometimes in the war on drugs, we will do things that will make the narco traffickers shift how they do things, and we're more than ready to anticipate where they're going to go next. Let's just put it that way, and I'll kind of let anybody figure that out. It's not a game of cat and mouse per se, but there is a certain amount of fluidity to the situation in terms of how we apply force or apply assets in certain areas, and sometimes the drug traffickers respond. And the drug traffickers know this, that if they move their stuff somewhere else, they may actually be moving more drugs. They may actually start to rely on routes that are less secure in some cases, take higher risk, and so it's a dangerous business. That that's, and as you can see, it's gotten a lot more dangerous because if we catch them doing it, we're not going to stop and try to arrest them, but we will stop them, and we'll use kinetic means to do it.